Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So we're doing simple, basic, fun snowflakes for watercolors for beginners. I go over a couple of techniques using masking fluid for this one, wet on wood for this one. Really, if you're just starting out and doing watercolors and you want to do some cute little Christmas snowflakes, this is a simple tutorial for you. I also have a link to the vector image for the snowflake here. There's tons of free vector images out there on the internet for snowflakes, and you just trace it and you can just do this bleeding wet on wet kind of scenario. If you've never used masking fluid, it's really kind of simple. You're just drawing out some snowflakes and then you're painting the masking fluid on. If you have masking fluid pen, it's even better. And also, if you're a Patreon, you get the extra tutorial on how to do this lovely little wisping away of the snowflake. It's kind of a technique that I like to paint with some of my flowers too, so it's kind of fun. You're kind of erasing the snowflake. So if you want to join Patreon, you can click the link in the description box, click the word show more boop down here, and the box drops down you can see, and you get the description of all my supplies and the link to the snowflakes, and you can see the Patreon link there, and you can join anytime and cancel anytime, and you get access to all those tutorials from all the years past, etc., etc. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate so much. So without further ado, and we can say Dropbox 10 times, let's get painting some snowflakes. Alright, so let me go over some supplies. I'm using Arches 100% cotton cold pressed paper. I cut up a bunch of pieces, so they're like 4 by 6, something maybe could be even smaller. In the description box, as always, I have my supplies in there. Click on the words show more on the left hand side. The box drops down. There's my Amazon shop with links for my supplies and some supplies that I use. And I'm going to put a link into this vector images that I used. These are like a free vector images you can get on the internet. And there's tons and tons of like vector images of snowflakes. I just grabbed this one right here. You can grab whatever one you want and you just trace it on your paper. And we're going to do a little technique where we're just bleeding color into the paper. And so you're going to have to kind of work a little fast on this one, but it's really doable for anybody. So you trace down whatever snowflake, and maybe this is too detailed, and maybe a bigger snowflake like this might be easier for you to do if you have issues. I would suggest first get your colors ready to go. So we're going to loosen up some ultramarine blue deep right here. Some peacock blue, because I love the turquoise color, and I'm getting it really kind of loose, like tea consistency, and Prussian blue. And there's a reason why we're loosening up all these colors. So I'm using a number 8 long round Velvet Touch Series brush for this particular exercise. I'll need a skinny brush to get into all the details. So really, you draw in all the details, right, with your trace, and you go in with just water, but you gotta do it kind of quickly, right? And if you can't do it quickly, maybe do a section at a time. So we'll try that. You fill in the areas that you want painted. Now don't get super wet, you want it damp. I'm going around those white areas. Only the places that the water is in, the paint will go. Now, if you messed up and you didn't put water, if you went over like the little circle area and you didn't want to, it's okay. You can always go back. So I'll show you slowly because it might be very difficult to paint all of this area at once. Maybe sections might be doable. I'm just doing the water. And why am I just doing the water? So then you can just kind of tap. So in the loose color we got here, ultramarine blue, and you can just tap and see where it goes. And then it's got to be pretty loose. Now this part might not have been painted with water. I might have messed that up. But we can just take that. We can take the turquoise, and we can start to play with bleeding the color within color. Okay, well, some areas get dry pretty quickly, but you get the idea. So you bleed. It's kind of great if you could do this really big. And then take the darker color and put it on top. the premise is just to bleed it. So some areas we're not going to be playing with the wet on wet. Some areas did. See, now you can see the kind of bleeding where it's still damp. And it's not like perfectly painted. That's what's the fun part of it. You know, you can take your brush, clean it off, and kind of meld it. But I really just wanted the wet on wet. So you get this imperfect design with many colors. Does that make sense? So we'll go back in here again. I'll do a smaller section, just this section. I'm going to get it wet with watercolor. This is why you want your watercolors to be more loose, like tea consistency. So you get this section right here. Now this is all put in water. It's got a slight tinge to it, but that's good because it's. And now we can start to bleed. Boom, 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 boom. Tap. I can take the peacock, and it will just kind of bleed out where it's supposed to. You just tippy tapping. You're not painting. You can kind of move it around. It should bleed where the color goes. It's kind of fun. Now I have to make this a little bit looser. My peacock. It's just an exercise in playing with that. Now you can do it the old-fashioned way, which is, see, if you paint in the color, you're not bleeding in the different color tones. That's the whole point. I know you're asking me, like, why would she even bother? Because, again, I see I have a tinge to my brush. I'm going to get rid of the color. You can see now it's a light blue. There's a tinge to it. So you can see the wet paint that I stuck down here. Now I'm going to loosen up some Prussian blue. Woo! Where's it going to go? Some peacock blue. It's just, and then ultramarine blue. It's just a cooler way of painting the snowflake. I know. You might say, this is ridiculous, on, but I think it's fun. So you could still put in a color and kind of go back in with the Prussian, the peacock, and then you'll have a real unique looking snowflake. And this shouldn't take much time at all. This is like a really quick little exercise. Again, I'll go and grab just clean water here. It has a color on it. And a little teeny section. And then I'll grab some peacock blue. That's really loose. And just tap. Tap, tippy tap. This is one way of filling it in. And then this area has got a little bold with the color. I might have to mush it around. So this is just one way to do a snowflake that's kind of unique. That's not just a typical flat color. And like I said, you could have painted it a light blue color. Like here, you can try and do this section like this. This is the peacock blue. Just paint it in with your skinny little brush. So now it's all wet with that color, and then you can go in and tap. There's many ways to do it. My first way would really work better, I think, if it was a bigger, bolder looking snowflake, but we have a delicate looking one here. Don't be afraid to play though. See, I'm going to take that peacock blue. This is the three blues: peacock, Prussian, and ultramarine. And it's not going to look really much like the actual snowflake that's vector by the time you finish with it. You can play around with it. But this is when you want to do something like detailed oriented. So here I just put in all this peacock blue, like we talked about on this section. And now I can just tap in the darker colors, Prussian blue, ultramarine deep. Kind of like a tie-dye snowflake. See how simple and quick this was? All you're doing is tracing a simple flat vector image, and then you're just going to go wet on wet and play with your snowflake. Now, I think most anybody can do this. Even like a a 10-year-old son or a child can do this. Or a girl. I'm sorry, I just said son. I don't know, goofing off. But you see what I'm saying? And then you can kind of play with moving the paint around once it's in if you want to do that. Really kind of simple. When you get that multicolored look, voila. You know, it doesn't have to be this intricate snowflake. I'm going to move it around. And there's that snowflake. And then you could do a little splattering if you want to. Keep it simple. If I went in, if I was going to splatter, I would take maybe some peacock. Just a little splatter. It goes a long way for a simple snowflake design. That's the first one. Now, for our second design, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to use masking fluid. I have this cheap masking fluid here, PBO. And we're going to just bleed wet on wet. So let's just do some simple snowflake drawings, right? Take a pencil, and I'm going to do it. If you want to do a composition that's different, here, the first one I just did the center one. The second one, let's go off the sides. So here we go, off like this, right? It's just a line down, crisscross like a cross, and then go across there. And then from there, you can start to make unique design from here, adding this, right? Just little V's. Remember, it's off the page, so you're not going to see fully. You could do another set of those V's. You can add a circle, and then from in the circle, leave a circle, and then you can do lines coming off that. My pencil is dying on me. You can get, and then little V's. You can get pretty intricate if you want, right? And then draw like maybe another one coming over here. Again, just crisscross. And then from there you build out, right? So you can try the circle thing again. And you could do more like things like this. Snowflakes don't have to be all these pointy V's, right? And then you can do little lines coming here. Making up your own snowflake. Do the V's there, right? You could have little dots on the end. Get real inventive with it. And then you can do smaller ones. I got two bigger ones. You could do some smaller ones. Simple ones. All that good stuff. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your masking fluid and a very like kind of crappy, not such a great brush. Maybe like one of the old brushes. Use that. And we're going to go, they have masking fluid pens. I had one before, but I don't know where she is. And you're going to go fill this all in lines with the masking fluid. And once you do that, we're going to start to do some lovely wet on wet fun with our background. So just go on top of all your lines with your masking fluid. See, I'm just going across this. This brush is not the greatest, but it will work for what I need. And once you finish this, we'll come back and we'll start to play with the paint. All right, once you've masked in your little design that you're going to do with the masking fluid, you can do as many as you want, a big, huge one if you want, get really detailed as you want. There's, like I said, there's thousands of like snowflakes on the internet. Same colors. Going to be using the number 12 Neptune series brush, really loose. And we're going to just play with bleeding in these colors. So I've got ultramarine deep here, really loose. Peacock blue. But if you don't want these colors, you want different colors, go right ahead and use your colors. And then the Prussian blue. Navy would be nice too. You can play around with navy. So I would start off light and also have some gouache handy because we're going to be splattering gouache to create kind of fun little blooms. So I might start off with the peacock, just kind of putting that color in all around. And maybe get a little bit darker around where the snowflakes are so they will really get highlighted. So when we remove the color, it's kind of nice. So here I'm grabbing some water and it's really kind of loose now. So I just kind of put a nice light wash of the peacock in here. Now I'm going to grab ultramarine blue. I'm going to put it around this snowflake that we've got the lovely masking fluid around. See how much darker? Getting around that. And then even darker still with the Prussian blue in some areas. We can kind of move the paint around by going like this. Moving your paper. And by the way, I've taped it down with Scotch Magic tape. It's kind of my thing. Now, it's very, very wet. It's kind of cool, like just the way it is. I only have a few snowflakes, and we got this light area. Just a little splatter. Not too much. And we have like a little snowy splatter. Again, I'm going to get that Prussian blue a little bit deeper in here. So they really kind of highlight when I remove that masking fluid. It's white. And you can stick some more of this lovely peacock in here. I'm just keeping it lighter and getting a little bit darker, getting thicker the paint here. Ooh. Could just be really thick on the edge too. Look at that. Splatter is kind of making some kind of weird. Thicker the paint, looser splatter. Kind of fun, right? Now I have the gouache. Cleaned off my brush, the white gouache. I'll get it loose. You can use gold paint too, try it, or silver would be kind of cool. I'm going to add a little gouache, and it's going to create this kind of funky resist in a way, like a, let's see how that comes out. Like again, we can kind of move a paint. It's creating this really kind of funky colorizations, right? All in here, kind of like this. This one's really wet in there. I might want to just tap a little bit with the paper towel to remove some of the wetness, and then go back in and get that dark color in there again. I know. You're like, how many times are you gonna get that dark color in there? A million times. Yeah, really dark. So it really shows up. A little dark splatter up here. Play around with this. It's so wet that it will not look like that. It will kind of dissipate. Look, the ultramarine blue kind of looks purple in there. Got a lot of Prussian blue. The ultramarine blue is such a pretty color. Now you're going to let this dry on its own. Don't start to use a hairdryer because it won't look pretty. Let it go. There's a little something here sticking up. So we have to have patience with this and see where these other little blue guys go. It's very, very wet in here. So it's kind of moving around. I'm going to remove some of the paint a little bit. You can play with it a little bit. Please do not go crazy with the paper towels. You know who you are. I mean, they come in handy at some point. They create nice little textures, but it can be kind of a problem for some people. They go a little overboard. So we have to let this dry, and then we remove the masking fluid to see how cool this is. It's always helpful to make it darker around where the snowflake will be, because of the fact you want it white. And if it's really light color, it's not going to show up as well. Going back in here a little bit. You could even just go over some of the little areas, like in here. And just around the actual snowflake that's a little bit darker. You know it's darker because there's going in here with some Prussian blue. You're not going to see this part out here if you don't make this part darker. That's the trick. Just get a little bit darker. And even out here, you're not going to see the edge of that snowflake. So here I'm going back in behind it with a dark color, so you can see them. It's a negative painting, basically. But we're not doing it. We're using this sneaky way by using the masking fluid. And you can go around your little designs too. Don't be afraid. It's going to be kind of cool as well. And there you go. Okay, we have to let this dry. We'll come back and remove it. Okay, so now that it's dry, I take a rubber cement pickup. That's what I use to remove all my masking fluid. And see how well we did with this. Sometimes it comes out great. Sometimes it looks goofy. You be the judge. Maybe you'd want it thinner. I like the thick lines. I made mine a little thicker. And I can't imagine getting off the masking fluid without this thing because it's so difficult. Even with this, you're like, I'm using a lot of elbow grease. Now it's really highlighted. Now you can get really intricate if you have a nice masking fluid pen. Get rid of all this stuff. And we have these cool, you know, it's like I said, it's a reverse. It's the easy way to paint the white. Or if you want to just do white gouache on watercolor, you can do that. But if you want to keep it completely watercolor, you do this with masking fluid. I have some cute snowflakes. I like the little darkness around it. You can go and splatter some gouache so it looks like snow with it. It's up to you. You have fun. Like, this is really simple. You're just drawing in with the masking fluid your lovely snowflakes, and then you can make it mixed media with a little gouache. I think it's much more fun to do it this way. And then you add this lovely gouache, and we have our snowflakes. It's always good to have like a splatter area. Now, this is just simple basic snowflake with a bang for the buck. If you're a person who loves to splatter, this is for you. And then when you remove it, you have this lovely little beautiful snowflake. So there's a few ways to paint snowflakes. You have this simple way to paint it, wet on wet technique. It's wet on wet, but using masking fluid technique. There's so many different ways to do the technique. And if you're a Patreon member, I show the extended version where you do this washing away technique, which is kind of fun. Really kind of simple and fun, but really impactful. So I hope you had fun painting some snowflakes. You know, these are just simple techniques for people who are just beginning to try and make them. See, mine kind of didn't come out really intricate and detailed because I used masking fluid with a kind of a thick brush. A pen might work better, but these are just ways to do it. And I'll have the link for the snowflake for this one inside. And if it looks a little too light, you go back in like I showed you and just paint those little areas and fill it in wet on wet and just do a little simple splatter. That is the easiest snowflake you can make on the planet. And it's just, you know, draw out the image and then kind of bleed in the color. It's a little time consuming, but it's a lot of fun. So I hope you guys had fun painting some snowflakes. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. And take care, and I'll speak to you soon.